We started Culturally Speaking to indulge our curiosity about the way others live and a desire to inspire conversations about how we have far more in common than we realise.
Hey everyone.
Hi, welcome back.
How are you this weekend?
I'm good. I had quite a nice relaxing weekend. I went to the spa on Sunday. I feel like you'd appreciate that.
I mean, I'd go every Sunday if I could, if I had the time.
Yeah, no, it was very nice. It was very relaxing. I needed it. It was a very busy week last week with work and life. So it was nice to have a bit of downtime. I wore a ridiculous pearl hairband, which, like, last week, if anyone's listened to last week's episode about fashion, yeah, very relevant. I sent you a picture, didn't I?
I mean, because I know you, it's not ridiculous. It's actually very on brand.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a ridiculous hairband on right now, but that's more just because it's hiding my hair from being crazy.
We like to accessorize.
Exactly.
I think you're a lot better at hair accessories than me.
I mean, you have such long hair, like the possibilities are truly endless.
I think I'm more about like the braiding, the different types of buns rather than accessories, because I've got this problem when we go to the office, I have a headset on.
Yes.
So hairbands don't work. And I always try to, stay away from the flat hair on top. So I think I'm usually in a bun. If I'm working, if I'm focusing, it has to be up in a bun. It has to be out of my face. But I had a much more active weekend than you. I think I went to play tennis, and before that I went to watch the London Marathon.
Oh, yes, of course, that was this weekend.
It's always such amazing atmosphere, like, because part of the route is quite near where I live. So I make a point to go, cheer people on every time. And it was lovely. It was really nice atmosphere. And yeah, again, I guess something very British, isn't it? This London Marathon.
I think so. I mean, there are big marathon events, right? There's this one, there's Berlin, New York, Chicago, obviously.
So this week, we want to talk about entertainment.
Yes. Did you hear? I feel like this is very topical. Did you hear that the Spice Girls are going back on tour next year?
Is it bad if I say no? I thought they were just on tour, no? Like, not that long ago.
Like 10 years ago. No, they're going back on tour, but without Posh.
Oh, I think when I heard about it, it must have been delayed by COVID, because I swear it was, yeah. It's not the same without her, though, is it?
It's not. I mean, it's not because she adds to the singing, but because she adds to the vibe.
Yeah. It's kind of like Powerpuff Girls not having one of them. Like the Power Rangers not having one of them.
I mean, I do want to go. Just to, like, relive the 90s kid in me.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've told you this before, but because I grew up in Hong Kong, I feel like I've missed out on the Spice Girls train. I know who they are, obviously, and I know all their most famous songs, but at least in my circle or my childhood, it was not that big a thing. It was more about the boy bands.
Oh, girl power forever. Also, like, the videos. I mean, do you remember, like, that iconic video they did at the hotel? And literally people, like, pay to just go and, like, be on the steps. So, like, oh,
which
I love
one are you?
I mean, who do you think I am?
I don't know. Who do you think you are?
I mean, I'm definitely not sporty. I don't think I'm scary. I'm not blonde, so I'm definitely not baby. Obviously not ginger. Although my hair does go a bit ginger in the summer, but I mean, obviously, like, every fancy dress I used to be like Posh, obviously.
Who would I be?
Sporty.
I'm not that sporty. I think this is a thing that people have started, like, framing that I'm really sporty, but I really don't think I am.
Do you want to be baby?
No. I think
No.
I'm quite athletic, like compared to a
Or
lot
you
of
could
my
be
peers.
posh, or you could be sporty.
Yeah,
And everybody wanted to be posh.
true, actually, because she's the most stylish one.
Yeah, yes. But she couldn't sing. I mean, I'll readily admit I'm not a fantastic singer.
So, apart from Spice Girls, I think the British entertainment industry has got a lot of really famous exports. When I was doing research for today's episode, there's some interesting facts, right? I'll go into them a little bit more later, but did you know that Britain made some of the first ever movies? So in 1888, yeah, the Roundhay Garden scene was filmed in Leeds and has been certified as the oldest surviving movie.
Oh, I did not know that.
But it was a very simple plot. It's literally a short video of people walking around in a garden.
And thus, an industry was born.
Yeah. And let's talk about films first, right? So I made a list of perhaps the more well-known directors that people might not immediately think are British. Because I think we know the films more than the directors, right? Usually.
Yes, very true.
So Alfred Hitchcock.
Obviously, yes.
Right. For people, I'm going to give a few examples of movies as well, in case our listeners are not big movie fans. So The Birds, classic. Psycho.
Yes.
39 Steps. We've got Christopher Nolan.
Of course. I mean, infamous almost.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you think of his films like, Inception, Tenet, the Batman series, Interstellar, Dunkirk, I don't think people kind of connect that he's a British director, right? Because he's in so many Hollywood
films. They're such big budget Hollywood films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Danny Boyle.
I knew you were going to say that name next.
So Trainspotting, obviously. If people have not seen it, please go watch it. I don't recommend the sequels.
How many are there?
So there's a prequel and there's a sequel, I think.
Oh, okay.
28 Days Later.
Yes.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Of course.
127 Hours.
Yes.
It's quite different, isn't it? He's got range.
Indeed. And I mean, also, hello, he directed the Olympic ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Ridley Scott.
Oh, of course. Like, again, some of my favourite movies.
Big range. So with the classics, Hannibal, Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, American Gangster, Body of Lies. But then House of Gucci. So this guy's got range. Kenneth Branagh, I think he's quite well known because he also acts, but the recent Death on the Nile, Murder on the Orient Express, and our shared experience, Belfast.
Janice also just really wants an opportunity to say that iconic line from that movie. So if you haven't seen it, Belfast, literally, as it would suggest, is set in Northern Ireland. And the lead actor has this line where he says, Janice,
it's biological. It's just the best. And guys, you really have to have seen the film to understand the context. Otherwise, it just sounds stupid. But it's so funny.
But even in the movie, it's just so out of context in the contrast of, the very obvious troubles that are going on. And this child coming out with, it's biological, in reference to washing powder.
And the last director, actually, I wanted to point out is one of my favorites, Guy Ritchie.
Yes, okay.
And it's specifically because I like his genre of films, which is not really rude, but they're like action comedies.
That's a very good way of describing them.
Yeah, because I do appreciate a good action film and a good thriller, but throw in some comedy for lightness, it's always funny. So he's directed The Gentleman, Sherlock Holmes, Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and weirdly enough, Aladdin.
Wasn't expecting the last one, but yes.
I know. I think no one expected it. It's some kind of director midlife crisis, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's try something new.
And of course, he'll always be known for marrying Madonna.
Yep. I mean, that's another conversation, I think. So on top of that, I was reading a little bit about the film industry in general, and I don't know if you agree, but typically people focus a lot more attention on Hollywood rather than the British industry. And there's just more money in it, I think.
And also, I think there's a designated home for it in LA.
Mm.
You know, when we think about London and you think about where an actress or an actor may live, like, you know, a lot of them live where I live, right?
Yeah.
But they also live in other parts of the UK, of London, and there isn't one central focal place. London obviously is, you know, at the centre of the arts, and that's all performing arts, that's theatre, music. But for film, I mean, you have Pinewood Studios, very famously, but I don't think it's quite the same as LA.
No, I mean, London is the third largest centre for film production worldwide, apparently. But I think you're right. We don't have that hill with that sign, you know, so it doesn't feel the same. And I think there's something to say about the relative conservatism of British culture, I think.
And British actors and actresses.
But have you noticed that I think our film industry, as well as TV industry, has a lot more nudity?
You said this to me once in passing, and I never quite got it. But I guess when I compare it to America, it's the cable versus, like, that's the kind of thing that determines nudity, right? There, whether the show is on cable or what used to be cable.
Because if you think about it, we can come to talk about TV shows later, but on our TV shows, people swear.
After 9 p.m, after the watershed, yes.
But
although the watershed...
do you remember the Tudors?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Appalling amount of nudity. I think it's a European thing, you know? I think it's a European thing. We're just it's less of a taboo here, I think.
Or is it done in a way that doesn't glorify it?
I think so. But if you think about all the, like, topless beaches in, like, Spain and France, like, I just think we care less about it. Like, it's not a thing. Everybody has bodies.
Yes, but also in that context, when you see people of all ages. It's not just, you know, I think there's a precondition thing, it's younger people, it's everybody, all bodies, all shapes, all sizes, and there's no sort of discrimination against it.
Yeah. So who are some of your favourite actors then, who are British?
I mean, where do I start?
Let's talk about the classics.
Okay,
the classics first. So
Hugh has to be in there. Come
literally, it was tip of my tongue. Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant is the
Colin.
quintessential. He's the epitome of that type of British actor, isn't he? Like, although, do you know when he's in a film and you just feel like he's not acting? Like, that's just who he is sometimes.
Probably is. So
yes, okay.
What have we got? So Hugh Grant, Notting Hill.
Of course. My brother's favourite. I should add that. Sorry, shout out to him.
Love Actually.
Yes. 4 Weddings and a Funeral. My personal favourite.
Bridget Jones.
Yes. About a Boy. So underrated.
That's such a good film.
Is that Roberta Flack rendition of Killing Me Softly that gets me on the guitar at the talent contest?
And actually, Nicholas Hoult, the little boy, is now massive.
Yes.
And I still remember the scene where they took this bread to feed the ducks and it just killed them.
That for me will never not be funny.
You know what it is about British films, I think? This film reminded me. It's a feeling of coziness. It's cheesy, it's corny, but it's good.
And also there's a bit of realism to them. Like, I can imagine somebody taking a loaf of bread, trying to feed the duck and killing it by hitting the whole loaf.
Yeah, and the embarrassing like school performances and
because we had those talent contests.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think we have to talk about Colin.
Lasai, of course.
Both, actually. I think both Collins are very good actors.
Okay. Firth first.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Pride
Mr. Darcy.
Of course. That shirt, that leg. Is there anything?
I think also on that
note, a bit before our time, I have to say. It was a bit before my time. It was just so iconic.
I was going to say, though, I find a lot of British films to be quite ageless. Like, you can watch Love Actually now. I watch it every year.
I watch it every Christmas. My family know this. Everybody who knows me knows this. We make a thing of it. It's just still funny.
Do you think, especially when we talk about period drama, do you think it's because it was part of the country's history that it just feels good to watch it? Like, it doesn't feel far-fetched.
It's so far-fetched, but possibly.
You know what I mean, though? Like, the romanticism.
Yes, because there's not a lot that's provocative there.
No.
It is just very gripping storytelling. Because very little happens in a period drama, if you actually think about it.
I mean, it's always, not always, but if it's a romance thing, it's boy meets girl, there's some, angst happening, some drama thrown in, maybe a few, rivals.
Yeah, but it's not like action. It's not as if, every scene is something new. It's actually quite a slow burn.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of actual romance that's being shown on screen in a very explicit way.
You're right, actually. British films, not all of them, but I think they are slower paced. Yeah. What else was he in? King's Speech?
Yes. I mean, I feel like there are two halves of his career.
He was also in Bridget Jones.
Yes, of course.
I forgot that every successful actor has had their rom-com period.
Yes.
Speaking of, did you know Kiefer Sutherland was British?
Yes, I did.
Like, I think a lot of people don't know that because he was in like 24.
But it's like Hugh Laurie. Loads of people don't realise he's British. Because he played House for so long.
Yeah, I guess I watched a lot of his TV shows, like British ones. So, like before House happened. So,
okay.
Yeah. So more of the classics. Sean Connery.
Of course. I mean, I wondered when we get to Bond.
We'll come to Bond in a minute. We can talk about our favourite Bonds, etc. Daniel Day-Lewis is British.
Again, such a part of the institution, right?
He was scary in There Will Be Blood.
I was about to say, There Will Be Blood.
And Gary Oldman, of course.
Yes, Churchill for me. What a role.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy for me.
Also brilliant, yes.
I think just generally John le Carré stories are just great, but this has to be one of my favourite British spy films in recent years, I think. Because think about the cast, yeah? You've got Gary Oldman, Kathy Buck, Benedict Cumberbatch, Colin Firth, Stephen Graham, Tom Hardy, John Hurt, Toby Jones, Mark Strong. Like, what better cast can you get for a spy film?
I mean, it's everyone, isn't it?
It is literally everyone.
Are you a Benedict fan?
I think
You
he's
a
a good
Sherlock
actor.
fan?
I am.
Oh, so it's just something I've never got into.
I like mystery and I like solving crimes, and that's my vibe.
I would be such a rubbish Watson to your Sherlock.
Does that mean we will never do an escape room?
Oh no, I'm great at an escape room, but
Then
I
you're
just
fine.
can't get into Sherlock.
I definitely think this series, I enjoyed the series more than the film,
Okay.
just because it's much more British.
Mm.
So Tom Hardy, I mentioned just now. I don't know, because I've seen him in so many things. He's a very good actor, but it's not connecting.
I don't have a favourite that I would say, oh yeah, like he was great in that.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, I guess. So some of the ladies then.
Okay.
Maggie Smith.
I mean, I was going to say what a dame, but obviously she's a dame. But wow, what a career!
I know, and she's adorable. Like if you watch her on interviews, she's just Joan Collins, Judi Dench, Julie Andrews. Come on,
that's a big range there.
You just don't. I mean, no offense to current actors and actresses, but it's just not the same.
I mean, you've got to think about how many decades they've put in. It's phenomenal.
Emma Thompson, I love.
Oh, but also the way she's transitioned to being a director.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Natasha Richardson.
She's amazing.
Married to Liam Neeson.
Both of them are amazing. Like I still remember when that news broke.
So if anyone who doesn't know who that is, she was the mother in Parent Trap.
Mm-hmm.
The wedding dress designer.
Yeah. She's amazing, actually. She's such a good actress, and obviously Liam Neeson. Come on. People need to watch Taken. And to be honest, I don't remember him in many other films because of Taken. I think that's a trap in itself.
I mean, Love Actually.
Yes, that film had everybody.
Yeah, I know, including Emma Thompson.
Yeah. Kate Winslet.
Oh,
she's irreplaceable, honestly. Have you seen The Reader?
Yes, I have. I mean, there's somebody whose career, I mean, could have peaked so early, but has just kept growing.
Can I tell you, though, I've not watched the entire Titanic.
You've told me this before, and I was just shook.
I think it's because I already know the ending.
Do you find it too sad? I know people who don't watch it because they find it too sad. I find it
a little bit frustrating.
You just want them to both get on the thing, don't you? Be like, there's enough space.
Yes.
And I knew the practical side of you was going to win out and be like, girl, just budge over.
Or take turns,
So I met famously she has a whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an Acme whistle. And I met the guy who designed it and the company that make that whistle.
Wow.
Randomly.
Back to Kate Winslet. My brain is thinking of a lot of practical questions to ask you about the whistle, but
also this is actually quite a good point. Is it me, or do British films feel like they have less product placement? Overt product placement.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not true at all, but it just feels like it.
I'm gonna go out there and say, right, that I think British films are less commercial. And slight sidebar, Korean cinematography even less so. The reason I say that is, of course, they produce films to make money, but I feel like, especially in Korean TV shows and films, they've had some kind of a renaissance, because when I was growing up and I watched a lot of Korean drama, it's one formula. It's a tearjerker, every single one. So you'd have a girl who was orphaned at a young age because her lovely parents died in a car accident. Tragedy. She gets adopted by a terrible stepmother, completely like negligent or even like bullying her with a step sibling. And then they grow up, step sibling is jealous of them, and then they meet, usually it's a girl, they will meet a guy who happened to be some CEO of a big company, but then the stepsister gets jealous, tries to, ruin their relationship, and then she meets a guy who's, a normal person without all the money. They are true love, and then she gets cancer and dies. It's basically...
That's basically the South Korean dramas you make me watch.
Apart from Crash Landing on You. That's like so good. Anyway, my point is, if you look at recent films like Parasite,
yes,
or a classic one, Old Boy,
mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like the director and the producer, basically, they want to tell the story. If you find it too horrible to watch, you don't watch it, but they're going to make it anyway, which I really respect.
I like how it reflects what is going on in their society.
And to me, it's like a chef who refuses to put salt and pepper on the table.
Yes.
And I respect that, actually. Okay, sorry, back to British film industry. So I think we should talk about... Okay, let's throw in a few more actors and actresses. So Keira Knightley.
I was going to say, when are we going to get to, like, my faves? Yes, you know, I'm a long-time Keira Knightley fan. Like, way back. Like, Bend It Like Beckham back.
Great film. Great film. It's actually... When did it come out? Like, when we were teenagers? Like, even earlier.
I think I was even earlier. I think I was, like, preteen.
2002.
Yeah, I was definitely a preteen.
It didn't make me play football, though. I just liked watching it.
Well, that's because your coach wasn't Jonathan Rhys-Meyers.
True. And also, what else? So, okay, Pirates of the Caribbean, not a British film, but I think quite iconic for Keira.
Well, and for the others.
Yeah. The Atonement is one of my favorite films, actually.
But again, adapted from a brilliant novel, Ian McEwan.
But it's so painful to watch, but so good at the same time.
The book, I read the book first, but yes, like the movie was incredibly well done as well.
And I mean, in that, obviously, we have to talk about a few other notable, like, I guess, newer British actors and actresses. James McAvoy. Nobody realizes his accent until he speaks at an interview.
How could you not, though, with a name like McAvoy?
But there's a lot of migrants, right, in America.
Okay.
Look, Home Alone, the kid's called Kevin McAllister.
I knew you.
So, Saoirse, it was brilliant. Juno Temple.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think, actually, Cumberbatch was in it. I forgot about it completely. This makes me want to, like, spend a whole weekend binge watching loads of films.
Hello, we haven't even talked about Eddie Redmayne. Be Still My Heart.
He's not my cup of tea, so you can have him.
I know.
I did watch The Danish Girl.
Okay, but what about when he was being Stephen Hawking?
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I did not like the film version of Les Mis at all.
Did you not? Was it Anne Hathaway? A lot of people were turned off by Anne Hathaway.
It's because, for me, it's the musical, it's the... I don't know, it just didn't translate to me. It's like the Phantom of the Opera. I hated the film.
Oh.
For me, it has to be Sarah Brightman.
Okay. And I can understand that with Phantom of the Opera.
But Les Mis, I've seen it on stage like 5 times.
Yeah.
Film just doesn't cut it. You know, that's a whole other segue with like musicals and the theatre. But slight sidebar, like with Les Mis, every time I've seen it, you know, when they were in the middle of when they sing, "Do you hear the people sing?"
Yeah.
And then they show the revolution, the fighting, and then there's that little boy on the stage, and then he dies. It gets me every time.
Oh.
It just gets me every single time. I'm like sobbing. But yeah, and then when he sings like "Empty Chairs and Empty Tables," I'm like, stop it. I need an up now, because this is just descending.
But there is no up, is there?
No. And to be honest, I don't feel very charmed by the whole like Cosette side of story. It's like I don't really care, actually. Tom Hiddleston,
the night manager.
Yeah, him.
I mean, he was great in The Night Manager.
Do you know who he reminds me of?
Someone we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not gonna out people here.
We're not gonna out the person.
Do you not?
Although just by saying that, people probably know who it probably is that know both of us. But yes, I think it's the look, and also particularly the night manager, the way that person dresses.
Night Manager was brilliant.
Actually. Again, you. I also think the woman in that looks like Princess Charlene of Monaco. Do you think?
I can see it. Have you seen his film High Rise? It's a really weird film. It's one of those like ones that like a dystopian film. It's quite disturbing, so maybe don't watch it. Stoker. Have you seen Stoker?
No.
I feel like we have really different film tastes.
You're also a film buff.
I do watch everything.
I am also the person that like deactivated Netflix for the entire summer. You know, like I'm that kind of person.
No, I really enjoy watching movies, I think. More so than TV shows.
Yeah, I'm not a big consumer of either, I don't think, on balance.
I'm gonna say something controversial. I don't like Tom Holland. Apart from when he was in Billy Elliot.
Again, I don't think I've really watched enough of his things to be like strongly for or against. I love Billy Elliot, by the way, though, as a movie. Billy Elliot is such an epitome of British culture in the 80s. You know, and the soundtrack of it is brilliant, but the miners' strike set against the Thatcher era with, you know, the mines closing, that mentality that people had, it's very northern. It really epitomizes, you know, a northern coal mining town. Yeah, really brilliant movie.
When we watched Belfast, that's what it reminded me of. Like it's drama, there's comedy, but also it's a history lesson, kind of.
And it really puts that place on a screen in a way that makes you feel like you are seeped in it. Yeah, I can understand that. So
I'll mention a couple more actors people don't realize are British. So Christian Bale is British.
You just wouldn't think it, would you? Because of the movies he's been in.
Damien Lewis.
Oh, hello, Homeland.
Do you reckon people know Cillian Murphy is like
Irish?
Yeah.
With a name like Killian, probably, yes.
Okay. But the cheekbones.
Yeah, watch Peaky Blinders. No, he is not from Birmingham.
Yeah. Gillian Anderson.
Of course, yes.
Because the first time I've ever seen her was on X-Files.
Yes.
I think for most people as well, and she has not aged. It's a bit scary. Sacha Baron Cohen.
So I do know that because, again, he lived very close to me.
Yeah, but I think people relate him to Borat, and I mean, I quite like them, not gonna lie. Michael Sheen.
I'm sorry, I'm still on Borat. I did not know you liked Borat. I feel like I learned new things about you, which is nice, but
because it's not about the crass jokes, right? It's actually how he used this film as an instrument to point out very obvious things. I really enjoyed that. Michael Sheen.
Okay, yeah.
I think he's very good with the accents. Like, you rarely hear him in his natural accent.
Speaking of accents, Catherine Zeta-Jones is Welsh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think Wales just has beautiful people. Like, if you think about everyone who's famous is Welsh, including Christian Bale.
Yeah.
And Daniel Kaluuya, I don't know if people know that he's British. Because he's American in Get Out, right?
I'm thinking, I don't know.
So, on this list that I saw about, surprising British people, Rosamund Pike was on there, but I think that's a pretty British name, like Rosamund.
I mean, she's also been in, like, Pride and Prejudice.
I really like her. I think she's such a great actress.
She was a Bond girl.
Mm-hmm.
You know that? Yeah.
There's just so many. I think the entertainment industry, like, we are catching up. If you look at what's popular in the last decade, we need to talk about Bond and Harry Potter, and then we'll quickly.
I was gonna say, we didn't
TV.
even mention Idris Elba.
No, he's on my list, but he's a bit obvious. I think. Like, who doesn't like him?
You know, I wasn't a fan initially.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the turning point?
I think just because he was everywhere.
What, like on the he's on a holiday advert, isn't he?
I mean, like, there was that moment where you couldn't move hearing about Idris Elba.
Luther was so good, though.
I think because, again, I was late to the game because I don't watch TV. So I never really got into it. But also, the Bond, I mean, again, when I come back to Bond, he was always in the frame.
Don't think it's going to be him.
No, I don't think it's going to be him.
It just
either.
doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the backstory. I think it's going to be Henry Cavill. Who else? If you think about it.
I mean, we've just rattled off so many impressive British actors.
But
does Bond have to be a man?
Yes.
Ooh.
Because I think I'm up for having different spin-offs of classic characters, but I don't think there's any point in keeping that story if you're going to change the character so much it's not the character anymore.
There was a moment where I felt like we were just questioning the entire, like, premise of Bond.
Do you remember when we watched the last one together?
I knew you were going to bring this up.
Actually,
you sat up a bit, like, higher in your chair.
Actually, I was first going to talk about the fact that we thought there could be a spin-off from his daughter.
We did, yes.
Yeah. But why don't you go and tell everyone?
I'll just paint a picture.
Funny.
So, I'm a big Bond fan, I would say. Like, I go and I really enjoy watching the new ones when they're released. And so, I offered to wait and watch Bond with Janice. We went to a very nice cinema in London. And anyway, we arrive. We've booked our tickets. So we're sitting, this particular cinema, like, I'm used to the one that I go to having, like, little sofas and blankets and, you get a bit cozy. This one was like, we had a little two together, didn't we? We had like our little two chairs together. Yeah. So we got all of our snacks. We did all of that. We were ready. I got cozy. I think I even bought a blankie potentially with me. I think
I was wearing my faux fur jacket actually.
And basically, again, people that have listened to this podcast will know us in real life know I'm fairly petite, right? I'm 5'2". So I sit down on the chair and everyone else around me is like looking very kind of relaxed, chilled, leant back, yes, in their chairs. And I'm thinking, why don't I look like that? So I lean over to Janice this is before the movie starts, by the way. The trailers are still on, so we're not disturbing anyone. And I'm like, how do you move this chair? Like, are there some controls? Like, what am I doing wrong? And she's like, no, you're just going to lean back. I'm like, well, lean back to where? There's nowhere to go. Anyway, it turns out Janice had to come and basically sit on my chair to activate this. Like, the mechanism for it to register that there was enough of a person to lean back on the chair, which is why she's now sitting up even higher in her chair. But I am just a little person, and I swear, like, I didn't do anything wrong, but it just didn't like.
I mean, to be fair, this is kind of like how I always struggle with those like swivel chairs. I always struggle to lower it
Because
I'm just not heavy enough. So it's not on you. But yeah, I think Bond is a divisive one, right? Not just about, you know, gender or race or whatever, but when you ask people who their favorite Bond is,
oh,
that's a whole can of worms.
So we grew up in the Pierce Brosnan era.
Yeah.
So that's who we remember. And then obviously now Daniel Craig. But yeah, like you say, classics, Sean Connery.
Roger Moore.
So my mum likes Roger Moore.
Someone the other day told me their favorite was Timothy Dalton.
You told me this, and I was just like, who says that? I swear he was only in one.
Rogue.
And he got fired.
I'm trying to think. Definitely, I've seen all of the Pierce Brosnan ones. I've gone back to watch Sean Connery and Roger Moore. I have seen the Timothy Dalton one, but I don't think I've seen the even older ones.
No, but they are just... Some of them are utterly ridiculous, but they are still good watch. Kind of all good watches, I think.
So while post-production editing would have cut out a lot of the sneezing, Neha started on this unstoppable sneeze attack. So just looking at how long we've been talking already, I think we're going to come back next week, hopefully when Neha's not sneezing anymore, and we'll continue talking about British entertainment. So we'll talk about TV shows, music, and maybe we can talk about the musicals as well, because that's such a big part of British entertainment.
So yeah, we'll see you next week, and we'll come back and talk about all of those things.
Subscribe, rate and review on your favourite podcast platform, and follow us on Instagram at Culturally Speaking Podcast. You can also check out our website, culturallyspeaking.co.uk, for a transcript of this episode. Share your stories or your show ideas with us by sending us an email at theculturallyspeaking@gmail.com.